want you to live vicariously with us here. Matt Berry, I know it's been hard for you guys there in the Northeast. Hopefully everyone is safe and inside and warm. Stay with us for the next hour. We have so much to get to. A huge game in college basketball tonight. We're going to head to the NFL Combine. That gets started this week. And also, what's next for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens? But we do know what's next for a couple of superstars in the NFL, starting in Atlanta. This just in the Sports Center. The Falcons plan to use their franchise tag on tight end Kyle Pitts, sources told ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. Pitts will make between $15 and $16 million next year. He was second among tight ends this season, both catches and receiving yards, and had a career-high 5 touchdowns. The deadline for teams to use their franchise tags is next Tuesday. This one also big as well. Cowboys planning to tag star receiver George Pickens. In 1 year in Dallas, Pickens set career highs in catches, receiving yards, and touchdowns while playing alongside CeeDee Lamb. The deadline for teams, again, to use the tags is Tuesday. It appears this is going to get done. Tim Hasselback joining us now. Tim, you and I talked about this at length last week about what the Cowboys should do with George Pickens. It appears the tag is in place. Your thoughts on this move from Stephen Jones and the Cowboys?
It's the right move by the Cowboys. I mean, they've gotten a lot of flack in recent years because they haven't, been able to quickly come to terms on contract extensions for some of their star players. Now, most of those guys were guys that they had drafted. Pickens obviously been in Dallas for 1 season, had a great year at over 90 catches, over 1,400 yards. He was very productive at times, played like the true #1 wide receiver. But because of the money that's tied up in CeeDee Lamb's contract, I think it does probably make the most sense that this is, a tag situation in hopes of maybe getting a long-term deal done.
Right.
But the likelihood is that Pickens is going to be looking for money at the very top of the market, and so it'll be hard to do what a team like the Cincinnati Bengals has done in terms of signing, 2 legitimate wideouts because one contract is clearly inferior than the other, and I just don't think Pickens will do that. So it makes sense for the tag. I would think that Pickens would play on it with the expectation of having another big year and then, quite frankly, cashing in after that.
Yeah, so we had talked about it's been one of the storylines, too, because there is risk if you tag a player like Pickens coming off a career year that he might be a little salty because he wanted the big contract, the long years, and the big money. So there is that risk there, but at least do this now, Tim, and the Cowboys have a chance to kind of bridge the chemistry and make this work going into the offseason.
It's a good point, Matt, because, you get the tag. I'm sure they expected it to come. But now, if the player is frustrated at all, or if there's a true, effort by both sides to get a deal done, then they can go through that. Or, the other option is, look, we're going to tag you. If you're unhappy about it, someone can come and get you. They obviously would have to give the Dallas Cowboys significant compensation for that, and would have the opportunity to work out a deal with the new team. So, I think those are the things that would take place. And if you're Pickens, look, he's not in a situation where, he's stacked 3 amazing seasons together.
That's right.
He's had 1 really good year with Dallas. And so it might actually help him to have another season where he catches over 90 balls, is around, double-digit touchdowns. Because then at that point, Matt, to be quite, honest with you, at that point, he would be able to hit the market and basically say, I need to become the highest paid receiver in the game.
There you go.
There you go. There's some of it in terms of, betting on yourself.
First of all, it's $28 million for a year, okay? Part 1. Part 2, to your point, give another career year in one of the best offenses in the NFL, you'll be able to write your check, your ticket, your team. So all in all, this could end up really, really good for the Dallas Cowboys and really, really good for George Pickens. That's the breaking news. Both Kyle Pitts, George Pickens appear to be tagged with their respective teams. However, the epicenter of the NFL today and throughout the week, Lucas Oil Stadium, downtown Indianapolis, the annual scouting combine is 59 days away from the NFL draft. I want to give you a couple of storylines to watch for. Texas A&M, 13 combine entrants, most of any school. Edge rusher Cassius Howell, wide receiver Casey Concepcion, the first rounders in Matt Miller's latest mock. Matt will join us here in just a second. Concepcion is part of a deep wide receiver class. Miller has 6 receivers going to the first round, led by Ohio State's Carnell Tate going 5th to the Giants. And you will not see projected #1 pick Fernando Mendoza throw at the combine. The national champion quarterback will throw instead. at Indiana's Pro Day. We've seen this numerous times out of the quarterbacks coming in. As I mentioned, our NFL draft analyst, Matt Miller, Tim Hasselbeck, still with us. I want to welcome in Harry Douglas to the conversation. We do know, however, Ty Simpson, Alabama quarterback, will throw this week in Indy at the Combine. And Matt, your thoughts on Ty's decision to throw this week?
This is the right decision for him to throw. We have a player who started 15 games in his college career. The first 9 games at Alabama, he looked like a lock to be a first-round pick. The final 6 games, however, guys, there were some struggles from Ty Simpson and the entire Alabama offense. He looked banged up. This is not a big quarterback. He's listed at 6'2", 208 pounds. He needs the Combine week to remind teams, hey, I'm that dude that the first 9 games was unstoppable. As a first-year starter, was playing with poise, pinpoint accuracy, great processing speed. So this is his opportunity for a lot of these general managers who've maybe seen him once or twice in person. If they saw him in the second half of the season, this is his opportunity to show them that he is worthy of being a first-round pick. And in a draft that has Mendoza as QB1, he'll be the first overall pick. There's a lot of teams, guys, in the first round that need another quarterback. So this is a huge week for Ty Simpson.
Yeah, it's also the year you don't want to need a quarterback in the first round of this draft. You wanted next year's first round, but that's for another conversation. And Tim, 15 starts just isn't that many. So if you're Ty Simpson, what do you need to see out of him this week at the Combine?
Yeah. I think what will be helpful for him, Matt mentioned the size, how you measure and weigh for a guy that maybe people have somewhat concerns, have some concerns about you in terms of that. So, if the numbers are real in terms of how he was listed in college and then how he ends up measuring at the Combine, that will be helpful. I do think throwing, Matt mentioned it being the right decision. Look, if you can help yourself, then go in and compete. Go in and help yourself. Like if Mendoza's situation is completely different. That's not Ty Simpson's. That's why they're making different decisions. So go throw around other guys that, again, it's not the same class as you referenced, but go throw around other people and be the best. Be the best in that environment. And then I would say this about Ty Simpson. His story, I think, is unique. The landscape of college football has changed. And so the idea that, there are going to be guys that are at one school their entire time, it's not going to be the norm. So somebody that has had to develop inside a program, then finally get their chance, especially at a program the magnitude of Alabama's, and then deliver when you get that opportunity, that will mean something. There's something to that. Look, they don't just have anybody become the starting quarterback at Alabama. And so, I think, kind of leaning into what the struggle was and what the perseverance was through that, I think will help him.
And I'll add to that, he stayed there during a coaching change. Nick Saban brought him in. Kalen DeBoer then gets the job after Nick Saban retires. So this day and age in college football, if you don't start right away and you have a coaching change, odds are the quarterback's going to bail. Ty Simpson did not. Check in his corner. Hey, Harry, I mentioned that, there's several teams that are going to be looking for a quarterback. Which teams do you think should keep an eye on Ty Simpson?
So I have 3 teams. Number one, I'm going to start with the New York Jets, and based on their quarterback play for the last few years, they desperately need a quarterback. Now, they have the 2nd overall pick and the 16th overall pick. You're not going to take Ty Simpson with the 2nd overall pick. The second team that I have, they actually don't need a quarterback currently right now, because it's the Los Angeles Rams. Now, they have the 13th overall pick and they have the 29th overall pick. If Ty Simpson is there at 29, then you might want to take him, allow him to sit behind Matthew Stafford. It looks like Matthew Stafford at some point he's going to retire, but you have your quarterback in place with the understanding of the system, so when it's his turn to be the starting quarterback, he can just ride off into the sunset. And then lastly, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. We know post-Ben Roethlisberger, I know Aaron Rodgers had a solid year this past season, but they've been in, I would say, quarterback purgatory for the longest since post-Ben Roethlisberger. So the Pittsburgh Steelers at some point, if they don't do it in free agency, they have to address the quarterback need in the draft.
And I think that's a good point, too. Later in the draft, the teams are better, which means there's more stability, which means you can bring in a guy that's only got 15 starts, let him bake a little bit to where he's ready to start in the NFL. You guys are always ready to be on TV. Thank you. You'll be with us throughout the day and throughout the week talking some NFL Combine. Switching gears now to college basketball. What a heavyweight matchup in the Big 12 again. Continues tonight, Houston and Kansas, 9 p.m.